Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Walt Disney CEO Bob Iger surrounded by his enemies. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Bloomberg, Iger has enough antagonists for 3 Disney films. The entertainment giant has real issues, and now the CEO has to deal with the Greek chorus of Ron DeSantis, Nelson Peltz, and Elon Musk at the same time. And there's no reason why Bob Iger should have these conflicts. The issue with Ron DeSantis should have already been settled. They're not settling it because Bob Iger really must already understand that Florida is going to win that. There's no situation or case that Disney is going to be able to force the state government of Florida to allow it to manage a county again, essentially the way they were doing in the past. They're not getting that control back. It's not just an executive order from the governor. There was legislation that made it through Congress. Nelson Peltz just represents investors who are not happy with losing $200 billion over the course of a couple of years in stock market value. Investors are not happy with what Iger has done with his control of the company and of the board of directors. They want to change. They want stockholders to have a say in the company. The board of directors are supposed to be watching out for the stockholders. They're supposed to be making sure that management is held accountable. There's no one else really there to do it other than the board of directors and the general decency and honesty of the management. None of the people on the board of directors of Disney actually have significant ownership of stock in Disney. So even though it's a massive company that, yes, has had a tremendous loss of value in the last couple of years, there's nobody representing those stockholders. Certainly not anyone who owns a lot of the stock. That's what Nelson Peltz is all about. And Elon Musk is being persecuted by Bob Iger because Musk doesn't want to agree with the strict establishment and Democrat speech codes that they want on Twitter. Bob Iger is an extremely political guy, and he seized control of Disney for political purposes. Look at this article from CNBC. Bob Iger: I wanted to run for president, but my family shut it down. They did not like that idea, and the rest is history. The history is he's been abusing Disney to push political agendas, and that's why he keeps getting so many new enemies. Here's how obsessed with being a politician Bob Iger became around 2016. Quote, I really thought about running for governor and running for senator and running for mayor of New York, and ultimately thought about running for president, which I guess is the ultimate sacrifice, really. When Iger was seeking advice about whether to run for office before the 2016 election, those around him asked him very blunt questions, including, are you willing to give up the rest of your life to this course? At that point in my life, late 60s and early 70s, it could be the last vital years that I'm around, not to sound fatalistic. But his answer was always yes, because I happen to believe that the cause, which is our country and its people, is one that you make the ultimate sacrifice for. His wife said, though, you can run for anything you want, but not with this wife. So she would leave him if he ran for office. So instead, naturally, he's gone off on this woke agenda and damaged Disney beyond repair, and now has taken on multiple enemies. Bob Iger is tired, exhausted, and overwhelmed even. He's joked privately with friends that he's not sure why he boomeranged back into the Walt Disney Company chief executive officer role, and publicly said the job is much more challenging than he expected. And it's no wonder. In the years since returning to the CEO job, Iger has found himself facing off against a series of adversaries motivated not by purely financial interest, but by rather personal grudges and vendettas. This is, of course, ridiculous. This is trying to say that Nelson Peltz and Ike Perlmutter are tied up in trying to get revenge for Ike Perlmutter just because Bob Iger screwed him over, took his company away from him, and ruined the value of the stock that Ike took as payment for selling Marvel to Disney. But that's complicating Iger's ability to address the true problems swirling around Disney, which include a series of box office flops and a streaming business the company is still trying to turn profitable. On one front is Republican presidential candidate and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has tried to make an example out of Disney for what he calls its woke politics. On another is activist investor Nelson Peltz and a duo of former Disney executives who appear to want to settle old scores. Again, they try to bring that up. I'm seeing more and more entertainment industry people that are trying to push attacks against Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo, former CFO of Disney, that has said, yes, Disney is being run very poorly now and needs to be fixed. And the arguments they make are like this, that, oh, these guys just want to settle old scores. Look, first of all, even if they did want to settle old scores, are they right in their criticism or are they not right in their criticism? And emerging earlier this month is Elon Musk, who posted on Twitter that Iger should be fired only after addressing him with an epitaph on stage at a business conference. This is not the business climate that Iger grew up in, nor the one that he left behind when he stepped down as CEO in 2020. It was a different, gentler time then. The rules and decorum of corporate America that Iger mastered as he grew Disney into an entertainment behemoth were relatively straightforward and simple. Among them, make money for your shareholders, play nice with politicians, keep your feuds private. Those three things are important. But now Bob Iger is not making money for shareholders. He's not playing nice with politicians, and he isn't keeping his feuds private. The business world has always prided itself on being a level-headed antidote to the dysfunction of Washington politics, driven by cold calculated economics rather than hot-headedness and grandstanding. But as business has injected itself into issues once handled exclusively by government, government's way of doing business has rubbed off. So it's clear, even in trying to defend Bob Iger, the author has to admit, yeah, they're being very political over at Disney, and that is creating problems for Disney. And of course, that has a lot to do with the billions of dollars missing from Disney's value. All the fault of Bob Iger and his board that agrees to do whatever he wants them to do. And that's why Nelson Peltz wants on the board so they can start at least making decisions that benefit stockholders, not politics. Now in corporate America, a type of pettiness and vindictiveness has taken hold, one that's more associated with and befitting the hyper-partisan politics of Washington. In this new environment, controversies appear more suddenly, are more turbulent, more volatile, last longer, and can be more damaging than they have in the past, said Robert Byrd, a professor of business law at University of Connecticut School of Business, who specializes in business ethics. Right now, there is no better example of that than what's facing Iger and Disney. The politics at Disney have caused them to lose millions upon millions of customers. From Newsweek, Disney is in trouble with MAGA. MAGA, of course, just means normal Americans, people not bought into their progressive agenda, trying to turn America into something it was never before and certainly not something better. Newsweek had an exclusive poll done asking 1,500 eligible U.S. voters, quote, to what extent, if at all, do you think the quality of Disney films has gotten better or worse in recent years? 46% of Trump voters said Disney movies have gotten worse or much worse compared to just 16% of Joe Biden supporters. If there are Democrats that are actually saying that Disney has gotten worse, that really lets you know something is wrong. When asked their thoughts on the company as a whole, 38% of Trump supporters had an unfavorable or very unfavorable view of Disney, while only 12% of Biden voters felt the same. Is Disney driving away fans with its inclusive content? 2023 was a difficult year for the entertainment giant, as during Disney's November earnings call, Bob Iger admitted the company had focused on quantity over quality, resulting in a series of flops. Of course, it really wasn't just the quantity, it was the silly wokeness and the destruction of their classic brands. From Disney brands to Marvel brands to Lucasfilm brands, all of it disappointing people who used to follow and were interested in those brands. Now most of us just don't care about them anymore. The studio's latest movie, Wish, underperformed despite being released over Thanksgiving weekend, earning $31.7 million compared to the expected at least $45 to $55 million. They needed that movie to do like $100 million. But even with lower expectations, they couldn't hit the number. Probably Bob Iger's most serious enemy is Nelson Peltz. The notorious activist investor took a run at Disney last year, pointing to the company's underperformance, overspending on its Fox acquisition, struggling to make its streaming business financially viable, overcompensation of executives, and failed succession planning. Peltz's firm, Trian Fund Management, backed off after Iger announced big cost cuts, but not before Disney's proxy filings disclosed that Ike Perlmutter, chairman of the company's Marvel Entertainment division at the time, was in cahoots with Peltz and had instigated the campaign. As they noted then, it's pretty much unheard of for a current employee to team up with an activist investor to attempt a coup. But for Perlmutter, it's personal. Perlmutter became one of the company's biggest shareholders after selling Marvel to Disney in 2009 for $4 billion. Over time, Iger chipped away at Perlmutter's power, leaving him angry and marginalized. The two clashed over more than just business. As they covered at the time, Iger embraced the Hollywood limelight, is a staunch Democrat who talked of running for president and has vocally supported left-leaning causes. Perlmutter is an ultra-conservative recluse with a membership to Mar-a-Lago, a big financial backer of Donald Trump's campaigns, and an unofficial advisor during his presidency. He also supported Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and likely bristled as he watched DeSantis and others in his circle cast Disney as a woke company. Of course, Disney is a woke company, and for people that don't know the history, Ike Perlmutter was very direct with Iger and told him, you can't just do progressive superheroes that people aren't going to be interested in. You're going to permanently damage the Marvel brand and the projects will lose money. In addition, Ike Perlmutter was always very strict with finances and always wanted money to be accounted for and not to be overspent. Disney is now spending more than $300 million routinely on movies like The Marvels, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They'll spend at least something like $200 million on a movie like Wish. Another total failure. Ike Perlmutter was right. If they had listened to him, maybe they wouldn't have made the Black Panther movie, but they also would not have made the Marvels movie. They wouldn't have made Captain Marvel and blown their entire Marvel franchise. Iger used the restructuring earlier this year as a convenient way to get rid of Perlmutter, but the former Marvel chief has since reemerged as Trian takes another run at the company. Disney says Perlmutter owns 78% of the shares that Peltz claims beneficial ownership of, which is especially relevant because Perlmutter has voiced his long-standing personal agenda against Disney's CEO, which may be different than that of other shareholders, according to Disney. It's unclear what Peltz and his cadre think the company should do to fix the problems other than change the board. Peltz's team has very clearly said that Disney needs to restore its flywheel associated with its brands, meaning the brands and the content they produce, the films, the TV shows, have to be great. People have to be excited about them again, like people used to be before Disney bought Marvel, before Disney acquired Lucasfilm, before Disney acquired Pixar, before Disney started ruining its own brands. Because when people care about the properties and the characters, they want to buy merchandise. It builds the value of any potential sequels. It gives Disney the advantage of being able to produce very well-produced, expensive content that they know will not lose money and will also continue to be successful for them in their library. In addition to that, they have way too much overhead and way too many expenses that a typical movie like The Marvels is going to cost them more than $300 million to make. The Little Mermaid, more than $300 million to make. These are excessive, ridiculous expenses that should not be going on. Ike Perlmutter knows that well. Jay Rizzullo, the former CFO, knows that well. And Nelson Peltz knows that well. And now Bob Iger is still dealing with fighting with Ron DeSantis. If you want to pinpoint when the Disney drama kicked off, it all goes back to DeSantis. Iger's handpicked successor, Bob Chapek, angered DeSantis after speaking out against the state's so-called Don't Say Gay bill, but not until he'd already outraged a faction of Disney employees for not speaking out soon enough. Chapek also went after the state of Florida after the law was passed by the state government and said, no, we're going to do everything we can to get this law overturned. For Disney to think that they could enjoy a special rights relationship that many other competitors, like Universal, for example, don't enjoy with the state of Florida while they attack the state of Florida is just completely absurd. They will never get that right back. DeSantis decided to make an example of Disney and retaliated, choosing to showcase his socially conservative bona fides in the ESG wars rather than the pro-business acumen the Republican Party has long espoused. This was great business for Florida. Florida doesn't lose a dollar by teaching Disney they don't actually control the state of Florida. DeSantis stripped the company of its special tax district status, which allowed the company to self-govern Disney World. Before the new governing structure was implemented, Disney pushed through amendments that limited the power of the incoming board. DeSantis responded by threatening to build a prison next to Disney World. Iger then called his actions not just anti-business, but anti-Florida. DeSantis has since backed off, but Disney filed a lawsuit against the governor, contending he attempted to punish the company for speaking out. Iger has positioned the case as a free speech issue, but no doubt will lose the case. Disney is only succeeding in delaying the inevitable, but that's what lawsuits many times are all about. And probably the most inexplicable, unnecessary battle Iger has is with Elon Musk. Disney was one of a number of companies that decided to pull its ad spending on Twitter after Musk appeared to endorse what some called anti-Semitic posts on his site, which were not anti-Semitic. At the New York Times DealBook conference earlier this month, Iger took the old school approach when asked about Musk, saying he had a lot of respect for him and what he'd accomplished before explaining his rationale for cutting ad spending. Musk, however, took the opposite tack. When he took the stage at the same conference in an extraordinary moment, he said advertisers were trying to blackmail him and that they should go F themselves. He then name-checked Iger. Since then, Musk has posted that Iger should be fired, writing, quote, Walt Disney is turning in his grave over what Bob has done to his company. Iger's spat with Musk is the most endemic sign of the New World Order, one full of drama and playing out before an eager audience. So far, Iger and Disney have yet to comment on this one, but the company has increased ad spending on rival social media platform Instagram. Iger seems to be sticking by one of the old rules of business here. Musk can say whatever he wants about Disney, but Iger will let the money do the talking. And the reason that Musk talks this way is because Twitter is an important platform for him. He has a lot of plans for it. Also, Musk has already reported that by his own analysis, he's lost about $20 billion based on what he paid originally for Twitter. However, in the last year, his net worth from all of his companies combined increased by $85 billion. So losing a couple of $100 million in advertising, or even $1 billion in advertising, which right now it looks like it's about $1.5 billion he's going to lose per year so far in advertising, it just doesn't add up to control Elon Musk's behavior on what for him is a very important future platform. Iger is having to contend with these attacks that are muddled up with ego and retribution when he has some true pressing business issues to solve, a run of box office duds like Wish, a streaming business that's still losing money, questions over what to do with its traditional broadcast properties, and perhaps the most important, finding a successor who can this time around successfully take over for Iger when his contract expires in 2 years. Deep down, Iger might want to channel his inner Musk and tell the agitators where to go. But it's times like this where his practiced propriety will pay off, keeping him above the fray and focused on what truly needs fixing. The technical difficulty rises exponentially with a cadre of irrational antagonists on his back. Iger is the irrational one. Even the author admits in the article that Iger is being political. Iger is abusing the shareholders of the company. None of the shareholders ever signed up to follow him on his quest to be president or pursue his political agenda. All they expected him to do was to be a good steward of what Walt Disney created, have excellent family-friendly movies, license the merchandise, and continue to distribute them throughout the world for multiple generations of people. That's all he was supposed to do. He was not supposed to seize control of the business to push a woke agenda. The big question is, other than Elon Musk, what new enemies is Iger going to find and start fights with that will just continue to hurt Disney shareholders? Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.